There are some days like today where it's raining outside or it's unpleasant outside or you've been outside a lot and you just don't feel like going back out. So rather than sitting around and watching TV, which is not really interactive entertainment, it's more passive entertainment, what I like to do is play a game with either friends or family. There's lots of games that you can play, but this is a game that I call Riverboat Farkle. Now it's Farkle, but there's one extra rule that I learned on a riverboat on the Mississippi. The cool thing about a game like Farkle is that most people can understand it. I have a 5-year-old daughter and she's able to play it without any difficulty whatsoever. It's not your typical game, it's really fast to play, and it introduces the concept of re-rolling dice to get an optimal result. And then also kind of the risk-benefit analysis that you go through for that. It's a very good introductory nerd game for that reason. It's not the typical game that you'd play, it's not Old Maid or Monopoly or something like that, and it introduces something that will be helpful later when you want to teach people how to play things like Roll Through the Ages. It has a re-rolling mechanic, or King of Tokyo, which is an awesome game that has a re-rolling mechanic. Or even something like Quarriors, that's another dice game. In Quarriors, you have to be able to make a decision on the value of how worthy a portal dice is, and then how worthy it is to keep your pawns in play, because there is a reroll option that comes up occasionally on the pawns. Finally, if you don't like games that nerdy, you can choose something like Poker Dice. And Poker Dice is a very, very old game, and it also has a re-rolling mechanic. Another benefit of Farkle is it's basically free. I guarantee you if you look around your house you can find six-sided dice like this. You can download the rules from the internet in a PDF form, laminate them with some packing tape or any kind of tape you have around the house, and you've got the rules. You can also, if you wish, make yourself a little bag, but you wouldn't even need to do that if you didn't want to. The final benefit is portability. And these games like this, they just fit in a little dice thing, and they're lightweight, compact, and this is even big. You can make them even smaller than this. For instance, here's a Farkle game that literally fits inside the footprint of a penny. Now I'll tell you how you score points. If you roll a 5, it's 50 points, a 1, it's 100 points, 3 1s is 300, 3 2s is 200, 3 3s is 300, 3 4s is 400, 3 5s is 500, 3 6s is 600. 4 of any number is 1,000. A 1 through 6 straight is 1,500. 3 pairs is 1,500. 4 of any number plus a pair is 1,500. 5 of any number is 2,000. And 6 of any number is 3,000. The best way to teach you this game is probably just going to be to have a demo game. And so our game tonight is between Senior Crab and Mr. Penguin. And interestingly, this is how they are. This is how they see themselves. So we'll start with Senior Crab. He rolls, and right off the bat he gets 3 2s, which would be 200 points, and a 5. Now, in order to get on the scoreboard the first time, he has to roll 500. And he is kind of hungry for more points, so what he's going to do is he's going to keep the 3 2s, and he's going to roll these in hopes to get more points. So he rolls a 1, so he's at 300 points. He's got 2 dice left to roll. Every time you roll, you have to keep at least 1 dice. At this point, it makes sense for him to keep rolling. Now he's at 400 points, and he's going to keep rolling because he can't get on the scoreboard with only 400. And he didn't roll a 1 or a 5. The only way he can score points with 1 dice is to roll a 1 or a 5, and he rolled a 4. So he farkled, and the dice passed to Mr. Penguin. Mr. Penguin rolls. Mr. Penguin rolls 3 5s and a 1 for a total of 600 points. As it happens, penguins are risk averse, and he just wants to keep the points, so he's going to quit and pass the dice and mark down 600 points. Now it's Senior Crab's turn. He comes out with 2 1s, a 5, and a 2 4 6. he decides to keep rolling because he might roll 4 of a kind. He rolls all 4 dice even though the 5 was worth something. Rolls another 1. He's got 400 points. Decides that the chances are good that if he rolls again he'll get a 1 or a 5. And he gets 2 1s. Now this brings up a special situation. He's got 600 points showing there, but he's rolled all of his dice. So once you roll all of your dice, you can roll them all again. However, if he farkles out, he loses those 600 points, but he doesn't care. He's a crab. He gets 2 1s, 2 5s. He decides to keep the 2 1s for a total of 800 points, and he's re-rolling again, hoping to get 4 of a kind. And he farkles. So Mr. Krabs is still not on the board. Mr. Penguin now takes his turn. Penguin rolls again, really lucky roll, 3 5s for 500 points. Decides to keep rolling. Rolls a 1. 1, 2, 3 looks like it should be worth something, but it's not. And decides to keep the 600 points. Once again, penguins are risk averse. Now the game has progressed somewhat. The penguin, being risk averse, has slowly stacked up points. Senior Krabs has had a couple big hands and gotten himself to 1800. Mr. Penguin just totaled 1500 points by rolling through once and then rolling 3 5s. And because he's risk averse, he decides he does not want to keep going. Now, since Senior Crab is on the board, he's already scored, he has the option to try to steal. This is what makes this kind of Farkle different from regular Farkle. This is Riverboat Farkle, and you can steal on a riverboat. So Senior Crab keeps those 1500 points and decides to roll again. And as luck would have it, Senior Crab rolls 2 more 5s for a total of 1600. He decides he's going to keep that. Now, just because Senior Crab kept those 1600 points, Mr. Penguin didn't lose the 1500 that he gained, but those 1600 points are now still sitting out here. And Senior Penguin kind of flies around, looks at that 1 dice, and realizes that he's got a pretty good chance of rolling either a 1 or a 5. So he can keep going with this, and that's what he decides to do. And look at that. Mr. Pelican now has 1700 points. And Mr. Pelican decides to roll again, bringing the total to 1800 points. Mr. Pelican decides to stop because pelicans are risk averse. Senior Crab picks up the dice, starting at the previous total. And he farkles, but it was worth the risk. So you can see how with the stealing rule, or the riverboat rule, you can quickly get into some pretty high scoring things and the excitement amps up and stuff like that. If you wanted to make it even worse, when you steal the points, you could actually steal them from the other player. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.